600 Breezy thought this was something small, but that small problem just turned into the case that could take away his freedom forever. One routine traffic stop, and suddenly 600 Breezy's entire life flipped upside down. Now he's facing charges that could lock him away for decades. The real question is, will he name names just to save himself? In court, 600 Breezy laughed it off, calling it minor, but one warning from the judge proved this was anything but small. What Breezy is really facing might shock you. One of drill music's biggest names is now staring down a RICO case. The same lyrics and street ties that built 600 Breezy's career could now be the evidence that destroys it. 600 Breezy thought he was walking into something minor. He brushed it off, saying it was small, as if it would pass quickly. But reality hit hard. What he dismissed as nothing has turned into a massive RICO case, serious enough that he may never see freedom again. And word is, Breezy isn't ready to take the fall by himself. Rumors suggest he's already looking for deals, willing to name names if it means cutting time off his sentence. It all started on the morning of August 27, 2025. For Antonio Valentino King, better known as 600 Breezy, it felt like any other day. The Chicago drill rapper was driving through Wisconsin when police pulled him over in what should have been a routine traffic stop. By 7:30 a.m., everything changed. Officers discovered an active extradition warrant out of Pennsylvania, and in an instant, one of drill music's rawest voices was in handcuffs. This wasn't Breezy's first run-in with the law. Raised in Chicago's Englewood neighborhood, he spent years balancing rap fame with the dangers of street life. His ties to the Black Disciples, specifically the 600 set, shaped both his music and his legal troubles. To many, this latest arrest wasn't shocking. It was the next chapter in a long pattern. Court records revealed that 600 Breezy was being held without bail, and that detail alone spoke volumes. In the legal world, being denied bail is a red flag. It usually means the charges you're facing are so serious that the court believes you're either a danger to the community or a major flight risk. For Breezy, this decision confirmed that whatever Pennsylvania authorities had on him wasn't minor. It signaled that the state was preparing to hit him with something big, something that could change the entire course of his career and his life. Almost immediately, the news set social media on fire. Fans, bloggers, and hip-hop commentators all began throwing out theories. The most popular one? That Breezy was caught up in a RICO case. For anyone unfamiliar, RICO stands for the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. It's one of the most powerful tools prosecutors have, designed to go after organized crime. And here's the catch. Under RICO, the government doesn't have to prove that one person pulled the trigger, made the drug deal, or laundered the money. All they have to show is that you were part of a group that committed those crimes, and that you played some role in keeping that machine running. That's why RICO charges are so feared, especially in the rap world. They don't just target individuals, they target entire networks. And when prosecutors decide to bring RICO into play, it usually means they believe the rapper isn't just documenting the streets in their music, but is actively involved in the same criminal activity they rap about. In other words, the line between storytelling and self-incrimination gets dangerously thin. For 600 Breezy, this was more than just a rumor floating online. His history of arrests, probation violations, and public behavior had already built a picture that prosecutors could easily frame as the profile of someone tied to organized crime. Even casual shout-outs to incarcerated friends or associates, things that might seem harmless within hip-hop culture, can be twisted into evidence of gang loyalty. Every video flashing weapons, every lyric that hinted at violence, every feud that spilled onto social media, those become puzzle pieces that, when put together, paint a damning portrait. And here's where Breezy's case becomes especially complicated. His mainstream success, instead of protecting him, could actually be used against him. Prosecutors love to show juries that these organizations have reach, influence, and financial backing. Breezy's music career, his connections to stars like Drake, and his access to resources could be flipped into arguments that the organization wasn't just surviving, but thriving with his help. What fans might see as bragging rights or harmless association, the courtroom can twist into proof of criminal enterprise. Take the Drake connection, for example. Breezy has openly credited Drake for supporting him, whether it was offering guidance, showing love, or helping with legal representation. To the public, that looks like loyalty between friends. But in a RICO trial, prosecutors could argue it shows the group had major industry support, the kind of power and legitimacy that makes criminal organizations harder to dismantle. It's a dangerous, double-edged sword. The same friendship that gave Breezy hope could also give the state another angle to attack him with. The biggest problem, though, is the pattern. Breezy's legal troubles go back more than a decade. The 2012 drug case, the 2017 probation violation, the stints in Alabama and Iowa, and now the sealed charges in Pennsylvania. They create a timeline prosecutors can string together to argue he's not a rapper who occasionally got in trouble, but a career criminal who just happened to rap. Courts look at patterns, not isolated events, and Breezy's timeline doesn't work in his favor. And let's not forget how he was arrested this time. It wasn't during some high-profile raid or after a big bust. It was during what looked like a routine traffic stop. That detail tells us a lot. When law enforcement pulls someone in casually like that, it usually means they've been tracking them closely and waiting for the right moment. Routine stops are often used to safely execute bigger warrants without drawing attention or creating chaos. That suggests Breezy was already under heavy surveillance, possibly wiretaps, financial record checks, or even coordination between multiple agencies. In other words, this wasn't random. It was strategic. The sealed nature of the Pennsylvania charges makes the situation even more daunting. Breezy's lawyers are essentially walking into the dark. They don't yet know what evidence they'll have to fight against or what story the prosecutors plan to tell. And with RICO cases, the stories are usually sprawling. They can involve dozens of people, years of alleged activity, and mountains of evidence. Every connection, every social media post, every offhand comment can suddenly resurface in a courtroom years later. For Breezy, this means the stakes are higher than ever. This isn't just about beating a single case with the help of powerful lawyers or industry friends. If RICO is really on the table, it could represent the end of his freedom for decades. Other rappers and groups have already been dismantled through these exact charges, with leaders and members sent away for most of their lives. The same confidence that once had Breezy saying he'd be out in months now faces a reality where the system might decide he won't be out for decades. It's a harsh reminder of how unforgiving the justice system can be, especially for young Black men whose art and lifestyle blur the line between performance and reality. For years, Breezy built his name by keeping it real. But in the eyes of prosecutors, that authenticity might now be the very thing that costs him everything. As this story develops, one thing feels certain. 600 Breezy's arrest marks more than just another legal headline. It feels like the end of an era in drill music, a moment where the culture built on raw street credibility collides head-on with the full force of the law. Whether Breezy manages to walk free or not, the landscape that created him has already shifted forever. In court, Breezy acted like it wasn't a big deal. He even told the judge he just wanted to get it over with. But the judge warned him not to speak too freely. Anything he said could later be used against him. That warning alone showed how serious this really was. After all, nobody gets extradited or denied bail over something small. This moment didn't come out of nowhere. Breezy's history with the law stretches back more than a decade. In 2012, he was arrested in Iowa during a drug enforcement sweep. In 2017, he violated probation by traveling for shows and failing drug tests, landing a 10-year sentence, though he served only 18 months. Again and again, he found himself caught between his music career and the justice system. His beefs also added fuel. The most infamous was with Tekashi 6ix9ine. What started as online shots turned into real threats, with Breezy saying flat out that Tekashi would die. Those words didn't just disappear, they became evidence, proof of a violent reputation tied to gang culture. By December 2021, Breezy was arrested for making terroristic threats, showing how quickly internet talk could lead to real charges. The timing of his 2025 arrest felt almost ironic. Just months earlier, he spoke out against a mass shooting at a Chicago rap event, calling for an end to senseless violence. To some, it looked like he was finally stepping away from the chaos. But his own arrest pulled him right back into it, showing how hard it is to escape a reputation once it's tied to crime and gangs. Reactions were swift. Fellow Chicago rapper Lil Z Osama even mocked Breezy online, saying, "The streets ain't for you." Meanwhile, reports confirmed that Breezy had waived extradition. He would indeed be sent to Pennsylvania to face the charges. What struck many was the contrast, Breezy calling it something minor, while the judge and prosecutors treated it like a career-ending case. And with RICO on the table, nothing about this is minor. RICO charges mean prosecutors believe they can show an ongoing pattern of criminal activity, often involving multiple people and crimes stacked together. For Breezy, this is more than just another arrest. With a history of violations, probation issues, and violent threats, prosecutors can now argue there's a consistent pattern. The sealed warrant makes things worse. His legal team doesn't even know exactly what evidence they'll be up against until they get to Pennsylvania. That uncertainty hangs heavy, raising the question of how deep this case could go. Looking back, it almost feels inevitable. 600 Breezy built his career on authenticity, representing the drill scene with raw honesty. But in drill culture, authenticity often comes with a cost. The same actions that built his credibility also built a case against him. And now, with a RICO indictment looming, the line between rap persona and real-life consequences has never been sharper. Antonio Valentino King, better known to the world as 600 Breezy, was born on April 16, 1991. His story began in one of Chicago's roughest neighborhoods, a place where making it past 21 was seen as a blessing. Growing up in the 600 block, an area tied to the Black Disciples, Breezy didn't just see street politics, he lived them. For him, the 600 set wasn't just a crew to rep for clout. It was family, protection, and identity. Life in Englewood was survival. Gunshots were heard more often than laughter, and loyalty wasn't optional, it was the only way to stay alive. Breezy's day ones weren't just friends, they were brothers who stood together when danger came through. But like many Chicago stories, his come-up was marked by tragedy. In 2013, his close friend and fellow Black disciple, L.A. Capone, was killed at just 17. For Breezy, losing L.A. wasn't just about losing a homie, it was like losing blood. That pain lit a fire inside him. He wasn't just rapping anymore, he was carrying his brother's legacy. In 2015, Breezy dropped Don't Get Smoked. It wasn't just a song, it was a street anthem. Raw, authentic, and unapologetic, it captured the reality of drill culture. This wasn't a studio gangster act. This was someone speaking straight from the trenches. And the streets felt it. Then came the moment that changed everything, Drake. In September 2015, the Six God played Don't Get Smoked on OVO Sound Radio. Imagine being a rapper from the 600 block, grinding with nothing but hunger, and suddenly the biggest artist in the world is blasting your song to millions. That wasn't just a cosign, that was validation from the top. What made their connection unique was that it wasn't industry politics. It was mutual respect. Drake saw the authenticity in Breezy, and Breezy respected Drake for genuinely rocking with him. By 2017, their bond had grown so much that Breezy's voice appeared on Drake's More Life project, closing out the track Lose You. For any rapper, that's a stamp of greatness. But while Breezy's career was gaining momentum, the system was quietly working against him. His legal troubles went back to 2012, when at 21 years old, he was arrested in Iowa during a multi-agency drug bust. Charged with possession with intent to deliver crack cocaine, he faced a potential decade behind bars. By luck or grace, his 10-year sentence was suspended in favor of 5 years probation. It was a second chance, a shot at music instead of prison. Yet probation isn't freedom. It's a tight leash. And for a young rapper chasing success, that leash was almost impossible to stay on. By early 2017, with only 3 months left on probation, Breezy was accused of violating the terms. His crime? Traveling without permission to perform. The irony was painful. Breezy was finally booking shows in Houston, LA, New York, and Atlanta, moves every rapper dreams about. But each step forward in his career was technically a violation of probation. It was a classic catch, 22, chase success and risk prison, or stay home and watch the dream slip away. By 2015 and 2016, 600 Breezy's probation record was already shaky. On top of traveling without permission for shows, he tested positive for marijuana more than once. Each strike added weight to a system that seemed determined to pull him back down. Frustration boiled over when Breezy had to make that dreaded drive to Iowa to face the judge. In a now-deleted Facebook post, he let his anger spill. This long drive to Waterloo. I'm walking in court on straight, __ mode. If I've been violating for traveling, then I'm violating by even coming to court. My PO in Chicago didn't violate me 5 years later. Iowa steps in like this. It was the cry of a young man who'd been grinding hard, supporting his family with music, and trying to move forward. But instead of recognizing growth, the system wanted to make an example of him. The very success that should have been celebrated was about to be turned into evidence against him. On June 2, 2017, Breezy walked into what he thought would be a routine probation hearing. Maybe a warning, maybe a few restrictions, but nothing life-changing. Instead, Judge Andrea Dreyer dropped the hammer. She ruled that Breezy's travel and marijuana use were violations, revoked his probation, and reinstated the original 10-year prison sentence from 2012. 10 years. For traveling to perform music. For smoking weed. The news hit like a bomb. Breezy's mother, Rada King, broke it to the world on Facebook. Iowa just locked up Antonio Valentino King for 10 years. This is the worst birthday of my life. The pain was raw. A mother's heartbreak laid bare for everyone to see. But even from behind bars, Breezy's voice didn't fade. In a phone call that spread quickly, he refused to sound defeated. That's where 600 Breezy's situation gets tricky. Over the years, his own words and actions have created a trail that can be used against him. Public statements, interviews, and even casual shout-outs to locked-up associates can all be framed as signs of loyalty to a criminal network. This is exactly the kind of pattern prosecutors love to highlight when building a case. What makes things even more dangerous is how his rap career and mainstream recognition might actually strengthen the government's argument. Instead of protecting him, his success could be used to show that the organization had resources, influence, and legitimacy. In the eyes of prosecutors, confidence and flashy talk about beating the system can easily be spun into evidence of someone who believes they're untouchable. Even the Drake connection, which Breezy often brought up as proof of support and legal backup, could backfire. While having powerful friends is a blessing for defense costs, it also paints a picture that the organization had access to money, lawyers, and major industry ties. That's not always the narrative you want in front of a jury. The real problem for Breezy isn't just one case, it's the pattern. His timeline of legal troubles stretches back to his 2012 drug conviction, the probation violation in 2017, repeated arrests in different states, and now sealed charges in Pennsylvania. All of this creates a storyline prosecutors can package as proof that he's been living as a career criminal rather than a legitimate artist. And the fact that Pennsylvania police picked him up during what looked like a routine traffic stop suggests this wasn't random at all. When law enforcement keeps that close of an eye on you, it usually means a much bigger investigation is underway, possibly involving wiretaps, financial records, and coordination across state lines. The sealed charges put his legal team in a tough spot. They're walking blind into court without knowing the exact allegations, and RICO cases often stretch over years, with multiple people involved. Every rumor, every video of him flashing guns, every feud that played out in public, those moments can now be used to build the picture of a criminal enterprise. For 600 Breezy, this arrest feels different. It's not just another hurdle to jump over with good lawyers and celebrity backing. If the speculation about RICO is true, he's staring at the type of case that has already taken down other major figures in hip-hop and left them serving decades. This is a heavy reality check for someone who once boasted that no sentence could hold him. The same authenticity that made him a star on Chicago's South Side might be the very thing that federal prosecutors use to bury him. No matter how the case plays out, one thing is clear: this moment marks a turning point. 600 Breezy's story is tied to an era of drill music where street ties and mainstream success were tightly linked. Now, the consequences of that lifestyle are catching up. Whether he walks free or not, the game that shaped him will never be the same.